What the heck is that? Hello YouTube, I'm Tallman Brad, and in this video I'm going to show you how to remove this abomination and also how to recreate it. By the end of the video you should know how to use the path tool in Gimp and also how to create these lovely asphalt roads with a little dirt border at the side. Okay, let's get started. Maptoolz 1.4 is now available, and there's a link in the description that should take you to this page, and just download it from there. Please watch the other videos to get up to speed on installing and the basic use. I'll not go into a lot of detail because I've got all sorts of things to cover in this video. Incidentally, this may be part one because there are some quite advanced features and techniques and things that I'd like to show you later. A big change brought about by version 1.3.3 was the addition of the ability to be able to move towns. That's an entire town, and check out the video if you'd like to see how to do that. It's pretty straightforward and it's extremely effective and time-saving if you're trying to make your own world. You can also change the height of water, and I have a video on that also. But there's a big change brought about in 1.3.3, and also it's reflected in 1.4, and that is that you don't automatically get the preview folder. Formerly, you would get a preview folder generated whenever you ran the mapconvert command. That doesn't happen anymore, just to save a bit of processing time. And if you want a preview, you need to type in map preview. Let's go through all of that now. So here we are back in 7 Days to Die, and I've already been into editing tools and random gen previewer, and I've made a basic 4K world with things turned down like craters and lakes and what have you. I then started a new game on that map so that the game could generate all of the files to complete the map. So next I need to hit F1 to bring up the console, and in the console I'm going to start at Maptoolz by typing in map export. You get a list of all of the maps that I have available, and there it is there, West Rebo Valley, that's what it was called, and it's number 3. So I'm just going to hit the up arrow to repeat the last command, so that's map export. Put a space in and then a 3 and hit enter, and this will generate the workspace folder. Now that's the folder that we're going to be doing the work from, basically. Now the workspace folder will contain the height map, which we can edit, which is great, and also the splat3 file in a format that we can also edit, which is great too. It's one of the amazing things about Maptoolz. However, it doesn't create the preview of where the POIs are, and to do that we need to run the map preview, it's all one word, then a space, and then obviously it's going to be the same number. So mine in this case is number 3. So I do map preview 3. It will then generate the preview folder inside of workspace. So now we can just quit out of 7 Days to Die and go into our app data folder. Showed you this several times. %app data% is one way, or once you find where you're going, drag a shortcut to the desktop for speed, which is what I've done there. And inside of app data roaming 7 Days to Die, we've got generated worlds. If I open that up, inside of there, there's our West Rebo Valley. Let's open that up. And there are the files created by the game. And there's the workspace folder, which has the files that we can edit. And then inside of there is the preview folder. And remember, the preview folder, you're not editing the files in here. These are purely just for previewing purposes. And the one we're interested in there is that POI, that preview file. Okay, let's go back. And I need to go into the workspace folder, find the DTM PNG, which is the height map. Right click on that and say open with Gimp. So there's our height map there, and yeah, lovely, typical random world gen version. And what I need to do is to go back into that workspace folder and grab a hold of the splat3, which is what we're interested in. And I'm just going to drag it into the layers. And it's gone below the height map, so I'm going to get a hold of it and pull it above so we can see it. Now don't worry that it's hidden everything else for the moment. We're going to fix that. Back into the workspace folder again, and then this time into preview. And look for your preview POI PNG, grab a hold of that, and I'll see if I can drag that onto the top of that one. Sometimes works. There we go, it has worked. Close that down. All right, so there's our little 4K map, and we can't see the height map. So a quick fix for that is to make sure you select the splat3 there. And then here where it says mode, it's on normal. which is fine. If I click on that arrow and change it to screen, it will still show the roads, but it will make the black transparent, which is very useful. And if we have a close look, just here, let's see exactly what's going on. We've got a little town, we've got the gateway tile with the trader on it, and we have these, just a multitude of roads coming out. This one baffles me. And if we have a look, we can see what we've actually got is just one gravel path going off to these POIs in a very straight line, and another path coming off, and this one's not so bad, following the terrain off to some other POIs. And then this main road will take us to, or at least it should take us to, another trader or other traders. Okay, let's start with the basics, and what we're going to do is fix this line here first of all. It's a nice easy one, and we're going to do this by hand. I'll come to some more advanced techniques in a moment. So we're going to get rid of that first of all, and the easy way to do that is to simply change to the pencil tool. Make sure it's black. You can click on your foreground layer and drag it into the corner, whichever way is easiest. Change it all to 0. Make sure on the splat layer, I've got my brush size set to 40. It's just a round brush. The hardness is on full. And now I can just drag over the top and off it goes. I'm not worried about going over this because it's not on the same layer. There we go. And let's get rid of this as well. Fix that. So we can have a quick look at the size of the gravel road that's being used here. Now these do vary in the game, and it's denoted by the size of the doorway, if you like, on the POI. Or gateway, I think it's called. So size-wise, let me just see. I'm just going to use that selection tool to draw a box. 7-ish. Unusual amount. Yep, it's 7. So we want a brush of about 7 in diameter. So gravel roads are pure green. So in your color selector, if you haven't got this, just click on the foreground color, and this window should appear. And then you just bring in green all the way up to the top. This is telling me I'm not on the 255 scale, which I prefer. I wish it would default to that, but it doesn't for some reason. So there we go. I've clicked on that, and now we can see it's full 255 green. I'm going to change back to the pencil tool, which is currently set to 40. I'm going to make it 7, the same as that other one. So let me start roughly where the beginning is here, and hold down the button, and I'm just simply going to drag and draw the line around. I'm using the middle mouse button press to slide across to see where I'm going, and I'm using Control and mouse wheel to zoom out. I'm heading in that direction. I want a bit of character to it, so I'm going to let it wave around a bit, and then we'll just roughly meet up at the other end. Now, this one's slightly smaller, and rather than working it out, I'm just going to hover my brush over the top, and I'm going to use the square brackets left and right to change the size of the brush until it fits. There we are, that fits nicely. And we'll have that path sweeping round, something like that. And same thing, just drag that up, give it a bit of a twist, personality, and that's fine. I'm quite happy with that. So at this point here, we could export our Splat 3 and use the mapconvert function in Maptoolz, as you've seen many times. I'm going to go over the exporting section later in the video. I just wanted to show you the very quick, basic, down and dirty, if you like, way of drawing some quick roads in here. In the game, you probably have noticed these steps, and they do look awful. There is a way around that, but something else you've probably noticed in the game is that some of the tracks, there we go, have these little notches in them. So how have they done that? Well, what we can do to create something similar to that is to use, instead of a round brush, to use an actual textured brush. So if I just scroll up to probably my favorite brush, it's the acrylic, and you can see the shape of it on the screen there. Obviously, it's no use as it is, but you can see where I'm going with this. It's going to give us a jagged edge. So if I scale that down to, I don't remember what it was, 7 or 8 for that one there, and we have a zoom in and try drawing a line with that, you'll see there, it's adding those imperfections. Something else we can do, and I'm very partial to this, is to, instead of using the pencil, we actually use the paintbrush. So let me change back to the round brush, and I'm going to change the size of that down to whatever that was. It was 8. And this time, switch to the paintbrush. And I'm going to reduce the hard, well, it's already reduced itself there to 75% instead of 100%. So with those settings, if I just draw a line now, you can see how it looks completely different to any of the other ones in the game. And that's because it's used the brush instead of the pencil. The pencil will give us this either on or off sort of texture, whereas the paintbrush will feather slightly itself at the edges. And you can set how far that feathers by reducing the hardness. If I drop that down to 50, you'll see maybe not as noticeable. Drop it way down more. There, you can see it is a slightly larger feather at the sides of it. So in the game, this sort of line will actually translate quite nicely. It will remove some of those nasty steps. And where it isn't full green, it will still try and draw gravel, but it will be softer, or what it's actually doing is making it slightly more transparent. So the difference between full green here, which would be the full gravel, to the next one, this gravel may start to show through some of the biome textures. This one here certainly will show probably half biome texture and half gravel. Something you don't see on maps normally, and it's very, very effective. So with this, you can smooth your corners and reduce the stepping, and also get a gradual fade down to the biome terrain. So the same thing works with asphalt roads. If I swap my color to full red, so that's 255 red, and we draw a line with the brush, we get the same thing. It will fade out from full asphalt, blending with the biome into the full biome terrain over here. So that's the basics there. And again, I'll show you how to do the export later on. Okay, let's have a look at some more advanced editing. Grab yourself a coffee. There are some things we need to do. We're going to learn about the paths tool, but in order to make this easy on yourself and to get these nice straight lines and curves, it's useful if we turn the grid on. I'll now go to View and go down to Show Grid. I think all roads in 7 Days to Die, but in particular the asphalt roads, all actually do follow a grid. And the grid is approximately 8 by 8. So that's 8 blocks across and 8 blocks up. So I've set my grid size, go to Configure Grid, to 8 by 8. Haven't changed anything else. I may have changed the foreground color from default, but I've got it set to black, and that seems to work okay for me. The grid's set to 8 by 8, but you can see it's not really lining up. It sort of looks like it is. It looks a little bit symmetrical, but what we can do is get that a little bit more accurate by going back into Configure Grid side, so you can see. And if I use the offset function and change it to 4 by 4, you can see now we have an intersection right there. So what we're doing here is we're creating a snap point. So when we come to draw our roads, they will actually snap to these points. You can see the start of this curve here came from there, end of the curve ends there, this junction intersects there, and even this curve here starts at that point there. So we can make roads that will marry up with these ones pretty close. I'm going to do it at the side, show you what I'm talking about. The other thing we'll need to do is make sure we've got Snap to Grid turned on. So let me just OK that to keep those settings. Go back to View, say Snap to Grid. Now when we come to draw, we should get, our pixels should try and jump. You can see the circle's not moving while I'm moving my cursor close to that. Let me just zoom in. There, as I hover around that, the circle isn't moving, but as I move between, it is, and then it snaps. So onto the paths tool. Why are we using paths? Well, the point of a path is that it isn't actually something that's drawn on the map. It's just a reference, and it's like just a guide. So you can draw the shape of your road using a path, which you can save as an invisible thing, and then you can convert that path into a road later. It also means that you can edit your roads at any time and follow exactly the same path as you originally used. But you can also edit the path after you've created it. So the Paths tool looks like this. And if I click on that, I can then try and draw some paths. But something you need to be aware of is this section here. We're in design mode at the moment, and also there is a cross next to polygonal or polygonal, or however you want to pronounce it. The cross means that that is active. And what that means is that when we start to draw our path, it will be basically constructed from straight lines with no curves. And it doesn't sound right at the moment, but you'll see why it is in just a second. So I'm going to start my path by clicking once. I've let go of the mouse. I'm going to find where I want to go to. I'm just going to go to there, hold the button down and see how the pointer snaps to the grid points, which means I'm going to get a straight line going up there. I'm then going to have the path go off over here. So I'll just click there, and I might have it go off at an angle here and back up to there. Again, I can move this around, and then we'll just finish there. If I realize I've made a mistake there and I need to move that lower or this across or something, I can just go over to Edit. And now when I grab a hold of one of these, I can actually pull it, and it will pull path, both sides of the path with it. So now I've got a path set here, but the information for the path isn't stored in your normal layers area. It's actually stored in this section here where it says paths. If I click on that, I can see there it is there. I haven't given it a name, which is why it's saying unnamed. It also doesn't have a tick in it saying that it's visible. So if I deselect that now by clicking another tool, it's completely vanished. However, it is still here in the path section. It's just invisible. If I put a tick in there or the eye in there to make it visible, we can now see the path. And if I want to edit that further now, I'll go back to the Paths tool and just click anywhere on that to select it, and I can carry on editing. So while that's selected, I've still got the path visible. I'm going to go back to layers and make sure I'm on the splat layer. So I can now convert this path into a gravel path, for example. I'm going to change my brush color, my foreground brush color, to the color that paths are. And if I make sure I'm on the 255 scale, it's full green. Okay, that. I'm now going to click on stroke path. I'm going to tell it I want to stroke line and give it the width. Let's just go for a width of 6. And we'll just try that to see exactly how it looks. So it's given us a pretty rigid line, but it's quite effective. So that leads us on to the next stage of using paths. And this is where it can get a little bit more complicated, but if you bear with me, I'm sure you'll be able to work it out. So let me undo that stroke there. I've still got the path selected, and I'm going to make sure I'm on the Paths tool. I'm going to change over to Edit, but I'm also going to take off the polygonal button, and you'll see what happens here. So if I want to round this corner a bit like these ones here, so a slightly larger sweep, what I'll need to do is to add some of these little nodes further down the path to indicate where the start of the curve is and the end of the curve is. So just checking we're in edit mode, polygonal is turned off. I'm going to click roughly in the right area and just grab a hold of it and move my mouse. Now don't panic at this point because we're not actually putting a bend in like that, although you can if you want to. I'm just going to make sure it's snapped onto there. I'm going to do the same here, grab a hold of that, make sure it's snapped on exactly where I want it. But what we can do now is remove this one, and the software will work out a nice curve between these two here. So if I hold down Shift, click on that one there, takes it out, but it rounds that corner nicely for us. Let's do one more. So I'm in edit mode, polygonal's turned off. I'm going to grab a hold of this, make sure it's snapped. Good. Hold down Shift and click on that one. There's our rounded corner. Okay, so now if I go to stroke path, and just say stroke, keeping the same settings as before. See, we get those nice bends, the size that we wanted. So moving on from there, how do we get this system here? Well, it's as simple as doing this twice. Not the whole thing, but just the stroke part of it. Looking at the road that the game has generated, have a closer look. I know these squares are 8 by 8, so I can see the width of this road. So from the outside edge of the dirt border to the other outside edge is 16, because that's 2 8 blocks. So we're going to need a width of 16 there. That's 1 block in. So the actual asphalt section is 14 blocks. And now go back to our line here. I'm going to select the Paths tool again and click on our path to make sure it's highlighted. I'm then going to say to stroke the path at a width of 16. No. I'm now going to change my color here. I'm actually going to swap them over and change that one to red because it's going between the two. And the color for the asphalt roads is full red, so that's 255 in red, 0 in the others. And then say stroke path. This time, I don't want it 16, I want it 14. Stroke. There you go. As simple as that. I know it's a lot to take in, but this is a pretty effective way of creating exactly the same roads as the game, and also to have them line up in some form to the other ones. We can test that out by trying to join back up to this road here. So let's test that out now by making sure we're back on design mode. I'm going to turn the polygonal back on. I need to click on the very last one that I want to continue from of the path. So if this one was highlighted, I would just need to click on there, and that lets the software know that I'm continuing drawing from that point. So once I've clicked on there, zoom in a little, I'm going to try and connect these two up here. So if I go to that point there, and again, I'm holding the button down, and just to make sure I'm snapping on, and then let's go over to that point there. Let go, and then we'll go to that point there. So another way to add a bend in here, instead of drawing those additional nodes and deleting the corner one, is just to simply grab in the middle of this line and pull it to roughly where you want the curve to go. Obviously, if I pull it too far, it's going to start getting crazy. And if I have it too shallow, it's still going to have a sharp corner. So it's not as accurate as the other way, but it still looks pretty good to me. Okay, let's join these roads up. We're ignoring this one down here. So the first thing I want to do is the green one. So let me switch my palettes back to the foreground as being green. Go to stroke path, change it back to 16 and say stroke. Yes, it's gone over the other one, but it's going to replace that with the red in a moment. I can already see that's lined up perfectly there. Let's change the foreground to red, stroke path, drop it back down to 14 and say stroke, and there we go. So it might seem a little bit complicated just watching the video, but if you can try watching this along with the software in front of you, you'll find out it's not that bad. Once you get your head around the grid system and also where paths are in here, so you know to click on that section there to find your path, because that's something that you can fall down on. And also to make sure that you're on the path tool when you want to go and edit it, and paying attention to whether you're drawing it originally, so that would be design with polygonal switched on, or whether you're wanting to edit it, so you click on the edit button and turn off polygonal if you're wanting to put those curves in. So now we've finished editing the road, let's get it exported and tested out in the world. Some things you need to do first is to make sure that you turn off the paths so that line isn't visible on the screen. I'm not entirely sure if it exports that, but just playing safe. And we also need to turn off our preview, and we might as well turn off the grid while we're on as well. So selecting Splat 3, I'm going to change it back from screen mode to normal so it looks as it should do. Then I'm going to say File, Export As, and I need to find the app data folder. And if you remember in a previous video, I just used recently used to find any workspace folder. Make sure we're in the right one. So it's taking us to Generated Worlds West, Rebo, Moon Valley, which was the right one, and into workspace. If it hasn't, you're just going to 7 Days to Die, Generated Worlds. Find your map. Go into workspace, that's important. And then we're replacing the splat3 file. Now I'm going to say export. Yes, I want to replace it. And then it should ask, there it is, the format that it's going in. I'm going to change that to 8-bit RGB. Don't need to change anything else. Say export. So we'll come out of Maptoolz, go back into the game, and when we get to the menu, we need to get Maptoolz to convert the splat file back into a format that fits nicely in the actual world. We do that with F1 in the console, and then this time we're saying map convert. And remember, if you can't remember what number it is, just leave it at map convert and hit enter, and it'll remind you it's number 3. Press it up again, put a space in, number 3, hit enter, and we'll give that a moment. And I have to say, the map convert function has been severely fixed since version 1.3.3, which took a long time to reconvert the map. Excess of 10 minutes, even just for a 4K map. Now it's already done. It's done in seconds. So well done to Zipcore for the effort and time that's gone into fixing that. All right, that's all done. So let's come out of the console. I'm going to start a new game. Always worth starting a new game with any major changes to any maps. And we'll say start. So here's the section that we messed with. So there's the hideous mess that is the Alpha 20 random world gen. So I need to turn off the trees because just to help see what's going on here. And if you're interested in knowing how to do that, just hit F1 and type in trees. Hit enter. Thanks Stalin's Den for that tip. Appreciate it. Oh, and incidentally, if you want the back on, you just do the same thing. Just type in trees again. So there's our new section of road. And if I skip downwards, there we have the lovely asphalt with a little dirt border. And if we fly up, we can see the horrible artifacting that you get, which is incidentally exactly the same as what you get in vanilla. So there you go. It's as simple as that. Was it simple? I don't know. Let me know. If you get stuck, just ask in the comments. I'm pretty approachable. You can also join my Discord and we can have a chat there as well. And in the next video, I will show you how to do some other cheeky little things with the path tool, including leveling the terrain so your path isn't like a roller coaster when it goes through hills. If you're interested in that and you've enjoyed this video, a like would be brilliant. Thank you very much for all of your support while I've been absent without leave. I have been working on a 7 Days to Die project that I know a lot of you are going to really enjoy, and there'll be more news on that very soon. Bye-bye.